Welcome to another edition of Inside Indiana Overtime. It seems like we're doing these constantly. It seems like we're doing videos pretty
Awesome.
much every day. If you don't know already, I'm Alex McCarthy. That's Jordan Gusky. This is Assembly Hall, and Indiana just beat Minnesota for the second time this season. This time a 74 to 68 final.
Docking 10 points.
It was. It looked like it was pretty well in hand for at least a few minutes at the end of the first half, and a little bit at the beginning of the second half, I guess. But Indiana had like a 12-point lead at halftime. The lead was up to 16 at one point,
Right.
but then everything kind of fell apart.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of the Notre Dame game. Just the roles were reversed. Notre
Yeah.
Dame jumped out to a big lead. They were shooting really well. Indiana couldn't. And then at some point in the second half, that just switched, and then Indiana took that all the way to a victory. But the only difference between that game and this game is that when Minnesota took it, got back in the lead, then that media timeout happened,
Yeah.
and they didn't score. And that was the difference. And it was Indiana. I thought after that media timeout, Minnesota might break out to like a 6 or 7 point lead and take this one pretty in hand. But IU really took that media timeout in stride, and they shot the ball. Well, I mean, they didn't shoot the ball well, but they got to the basket.
Yeah.
Farrell had that play where he drove the ball, got it to Bryant for the dunk with about 30 seconds
Yep.
left to put him up three, and that really kind of sealed the deal. King had an opportunity down here for a three. But he missed the open shot, and so IU got pretty lucky that Minnesota went cold after that timeout. I guess it's kind of like what Crean says about sometimes he hates halftime because that takes the
Yeah.
takes the win out of it. So in a way, like that last media timeout was kind of what Minnesota didn't need.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they didn't need any kind of stoppage of play. They also didn't need Thomas Bryant to really start kind of playing like a man in the last 3 minutes or so. I mean, he was having a very, very good game throughout, but kind of like Indiana, he had kind of faded to the background for a while. Wasn't really asserting himself that much, and then in the last couple minutes, he blocks a shot on one end,
Right.
gets an offensive rebound, and puts it back in on the other. And then you mentioned that dunk that he had on
Right.
where he runs the floor. Minnesota maybe is expecting Indiana to call a timeout. IU doesn't slow down, actually speeds up and beats him down the court. Thomas Bryant ends with a career-high 23 points. He had 8 rebounds, a couple blocks, a steal, an assist. Kind of did a little bit of everything tonight. But most importantly, he hit Indiana's last 3 shots from the floor. Indiana only hit 3 field goals in the last 8:08 of this
Right.
game, and Bryant hit all 3 of them. Yogi Ferrell, I think, scored the last 4 points, or
I think it
the
was
last
6 points.
Yeah, okay.
All free throws.
Yeah, all from the line. So that was very important for Indiana. And Ferrell was saying after the game they learned a little bit from losing close games to Wake Forest and UNLV and Maui, and are, quote, a new team now, and are able to kind of win these close games. They're able to have that comeback win against Notre
Right.
Dame that you mentioned. They're able to kind of regain their composure, I guess, late in games, and that's what we saw here at Assembly Hall tonight. They rebounded from their first loss of Big Ten play the other night against Wisconsin, but now things start kind of getting a little bit more interesting for Indiana. They go to Michigan, which is 7-2 in the Big Ten, I believe, after beating Penn State today. I mean, at this point in Big Ten play, Indiana's 8-1, but their last 2 games, I mean, they obviously lost the other night. They didn't play well in long stretches today. Where do you kind of see this team right now?
I don't see it as a cause for concern. It's always hard to play at Wisconsin, and no matter what team they've sent to Wisconsin the past 15 years,
Yeah.
they haven't won. Even the 2002 team that made it all the way in the championship game. So it's not. I don't think it's a cause for concern. They're going to have some bad shooting nights. This was an odd one to go
Just a
2 for 18
terrible
from
one.
3.
Yeah.
They took another step back from the Wisconsin game, but I mean, they did have those games where they shot over 50%, close to 60% from 3. So I think it's kind of balancing out. You're seeing is this team as a team that they can get their offense in the paint, and it's hard to believe that they scored 74 points and only 6
Somehow.
of them came from threes. And so that I think that's pretty incredible. And I think a big thing is like what Crean said post game, that the freshmen are really starting to come into their own. Bryant had the career high point total, like you mentioned. OG Anunoby seems like just the hustle guy on this team,
Yeah.
getting plays. Just whenever he's in there, he was in there for 22 minutes, had 8.6 rebounds. But it felt like he was, and I mean, I included him as like one of my 2 stars of the game. I thought he was really key to Indiana, getting this victory and jumping after that huge lead. Because as you saw, he didn't play a lot towards the end of the game, and
Right.
that's kind of when Minnesota jumped back in. And so I think that's big. Juwan Morgan played well too. He's a great defender.
Yeah, he's been been really good.
He's one of the reasons. That's basically one of the main reasons why Crean brought him in. I think this game is actually a game to look at as a good one, that they were able to weather a storm even on a really bad shooting night and keep going. So I wouldn't see this as a cause for concern. I think people should be optimistic.
Yeah. I mean, as crazy as it is to say after this week of IU basketball, they actually have kind of looked good enough to win at least. I mean, they've been able to overcome some just really bad statistical categories. I mean, you look at the turnovers against Wisconsin the other night and the fouls, and they still took that game into overtime and had a chance to tie on the last play of overtime. And then you look at tonight, 2 of 18, which is insane from behind the arc, and they still won. They still won the game. So they're able to win games in different ways, and I think that's kind of the sign of a team that kind of is starting to put it together, at least, where when one thing that you rely on isn't there, you can make up for it in another way. So we'll see what they have in them when they play in Ann Arbor, 9 p.m. Tuesday. We won't be there because National Signing Day is
Wednesday,
the next morning. So
get pumped.
Yes, get excited for that because it's going to be busy. But for now, we're going to sign off. We're going to get some rest, get ready for signing day. But for now, thanks for watching. We will be back soon, and have a good rest of your weekend.